North Carolina City and County Communicators, or NC3C for short, is heading to the Emerald City, Greenville, North Carolina, for the 2022 annual conference. The annual conference gives municipal and county communicators the opportunity to learn from industry professionals about topics that will help your everyday work life. Network with peers and gain support and ideas to assist you with your programs, and return to home base with tangible ideas that will jumpstart creativity. We'll be handing out the Excellence in Communications Awards, another chance to steal ideas and make them fit in your community. Annual membership is $50, and members who register before the early bird deadline of April 13th can attend April 27th through the 29th for $250. Memberships are also available for communicators within organizations like school districts, libraries, utilities, and public authorities. We hope to see you in Greenville for the 2022 annual conference. Visit nc3c.com for more information.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado, this is GovLove, a podcast about local government. GovLove is produced by ELGL, the Engaging Local Government Leaders Network. We engage the brightest minds in local government. Today's episode is produced in partnership with AARP Livable Communities. We're featuring the City of Salinas ADU Educational Campaign and AARP Community Challenge Grant.
Hey there, this is Kirsten, and I wanted to share some information with you about how your local government can transform payments for your community as well as your staff. City-based technology helps people find, apply, and pay for public services. Cities and counties like San Francisco, Denver, Austin, Chicago, and New York work with Citybase for a payment experience people love, backed by industry-leading security. Citybase integrates payment functionality, business processes, and communications into a central cloud-based platform that consumers can access through the web, mobile, kiosk, and point of sale. If you'd like to learn more, you can head to go.thecitybase.com/govlove. That's go.thecitybase.com/govlove and learn more about the platform that more than 100 government agencies, utilities, cities, and counties are using to provide hassle-free payments and digital services. Head over to go.thecitybase.com/govlove.
I'm Alyssa Dinberg, and today I'm joined by Holly Hodge, Raul Ortega, and Adam Garrett. Welcome to GovLove.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, super excited to have you all here. Before we get started, let's start with one of our signature lightning rounds. So our first question, and we're going to start with Raul on this one. What is the last new thing you attempted to cook?
I wasn't ready for that, but I'll say I attempted to make some pork belly.
Ah, okay. I've never tried to make that before.
Mm-hmm.
Holly, what about you?
Mine was shrimp pad thai, and it was from kind of a kit I picked up at a farmer's market. So it was a little bit of cheating, but it went okay.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I love pad thai. It's so good. Adam, what about you?
So I made a miso soup with scallions and mushrooms, and also I put some ginger in there. So it was kind of a new thing for me. But that was when I had COVID, so it kind of helped with the congestion.
That sounds delicious. Love miso soup. I attempted to make corned beef and cabbage for St. Patrick's Day. And I consider myself a fairly good cook, but it didn't come out that great. I was pretty disappointed in it. It was super salty and fairly tough. And I made it in the crock pot, so I'm not really sure what went wrong, but I'm gonna have to try it again. All right, next question. You're probably gonna see a theme with these questions. Because it is 11:15 here and I have not had breakfast. Question number 2, Adam, we'll start with you. What are the 2 best condiments to put on a biscuit?
So I would probably say salted butter and raspberry jam. So it's really good combo. Yeah, you can't have the butter completely melted, but you want it mostly melted, and then put the jam on top.
I'm feeling some passion from you in this response, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Raul, what about you?
I'll say salt, pepper, and rosemary.
Going a different route. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Holly, what about you?
Yeah, mine is similar to Adam's. It's just butter, but strawberry jam is the way to go. So, yeah, I do it, one on each side. You get two different experiences, but it's good overall.
Sounds very good. I'm a big honey fan. I love butter and honey on biscuits. I'm from the South, and that's like a big thing that we do in the South. So, big butter and honey fan. All right, last question. This is a question that I ask on every episode. If you were a vegetable, what would you be and why? And Holly, we'll start with you.
I think for me, I would be a pumpkin just because primarily I love pumpkin pie. Every fall, I consume an inordinate amount of pumpkin pie. I'll eat it pretty consistently, but also I feel like pumpkins have high utility. You can use it for pie, custards, take out the pumpkin seeds. You can use it to carve it, for Halloween, for entertainment. And I kind of like doing a variety of things. So I feel like a pumpkin's a good fit.
So what are your thoughts on the pumpkin pie at Costco? This is a controversial question.
I love store-bought pie. I don't need like the nicest pie out there. It doesn't need to be homemade. So I think Costco pie is really good.
I'm with you on that. Some people are like, no, it's garbage. It's gross. I'm like, it's $4. You can't, and it's like, it would feed a football team. So I agree with you. All right, Adam, what about you? If you were a vegetable, what would you be and why?
I'd probably be a cabbage, just because I really like coleslaw and I love sauerkraut. So.
All right.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever had a cabbage person on here.
Yeah. Not a Cabbage Patch Kid, but a cabbage.
Love it.
What is it? The Cabbage Patch families?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's like
Raul?
a TV show or something.
Raul, what would you be?
I think broccoli, because you could steam it, you could add it to so many other foods, egg, you name it. Meat, I'm a meat lover. So broccoli goes with everything.
That is true. Broccoli is very diverse. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I did not introduce what you do, so I'd love for you to just take a couple seconds to tell our listeners what you're currently doing, where you work, how you're involved in this project. And Adam, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. My name is Adam. I'm an assistant planner with the City of Salinas, and I work in the current planning division. So that division kind of oversees the zoning administration and land use implementation for the City of Salinas. And we've recently had a large influx of ADUs. So, going from about 9 to 20 per year, we've probably gone up to the, 80 or plus range of ADUs per year that are actually issued and finaled. Of those, there are many more that are not finally pursued. But previously I did work in the long range planning division, so I did kind of have some more of that policy background. But right now I'm kind of helping with various aspects of the ADU program, while the VISTAs and will help with grant opportunities. And then folks in building will ensure that any conversions are that they're up to code and that they're kind of chief in making sure that the building process permit process runs seamlessly, and that people can get their permits expedited in the fastest manner possible, given how many permits we have.
Raul, what about you? Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Raul Ortega, junior engineer with City of Salinas, Community Development Building Permit Center. And my part of my duty on the city is basically making sure that the ADUs comply with the California building codes. So we have to make sure that when we do the verification, they meet all the requirements, such as fire separation, plumbing, mechanical, electrical. And again, that's for the safety of the community. I also do all the residential reviews with additions, new construction, mechanical, electrical, solar. And that's basically what I do here at the City of Salinas.
Great. Thank you. Holly?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Holly Hodge, and I was the Housing Production Coordinator VISTA with the City of Salinas. So I served with AmeriCorps between January 2021 and January 2022. And I'm currently working for an ADU startup called Plug-in House.
Very cool. I love that. I was an AmeriCorps VISTA as well, working in rural Alabama on food insecurity. So it's always great to talk to another VISTA. All right. So, Holly, I know that one of your tasks as a VISTA was to submit the application for the AARP Community Challenge Grant. Can you tell our listeners what the project idea was?
Yeah, so for the Salinas community, there's a really high need for ADU education. Most people, even question what is an ADU, which for the audience, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. And there was a really big need for outreach in our community because California state law over the past few years, especially in 2020, had been really progressive about allowing more ADUs in cities throughout California, but the Salinas community really kind of needed education on what those laws were because there had been so many changes, and also just kind of basic education that, ADUs exist. This is a tool you can use on your property as a property owner, and this is how you can go about getting an ADU if you're interested. So that's kind of the root of the project idea that we were going for. But the idea itself was a kind of encapsulated educational campaign that had a component of educational brochures, outreach, and then workshops that we had 2 in person and then 1 that was remote to help give people information on kind of the basics of ADUs, but also going about how an ADU permitting process works in our city, and also giving people advice on the process from kind of the insider city perspective.
Great. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about the educational brochures. What was different about the approach, and what kind of information was shared in the brochures?
Yeah, so for our brochures, we had 2. One was on basics of how to build an ADU, just kind of a really brief overview of the process. And the other was the benefits of having an ADU to try to show people why an ADU might help them, especially for people who might have, an aging parent, aging family member, or even an aging member of their community who could benefit from moving into a smaller space, moving into a space that could be cheaper for them, and having an easy way to disseminate that information. A big component of our brochures that was important to us was having them be bilingual because we have a large Spanish-speaking population in the city of Salinas. And so making sure that these materials were available in both English and Spanish, and also having the resources of staff on hand to answer questions in both languages was really important. And so luckily, majority of City of Salinas staff is bilingual. So directing people to those staff resources too was really important.
Are you guys able to tell me what the population demographics look like in the City of Salinas? Adam, Raul?
So the City of Salinas is roughly 80% Latino or Hispanic, and I'm unsure of what percent of that population speaks exclusively Spanish, but it's probably somewhere around 50 to 60%, while a large amount are bilingual and speak different languages at different times.
So I know that one of the key components of the grant was a bilingual workshops for residents. You all just briefly touched on the importance of creating bilingual access for your community. So I would assume that workshops for other types of projects are bilingual as well. This isn't something new that the city has done.
Yeah, so the City of Salinas has a long history of outreaching to the community in different neighborhoods and different capacities. So whether it's an outdoor event like Ciclovia, which is where we close down the streets and have a bicycle festival, or whether it's another type of, meeting where people might be coming for a resource fair, or at a school. So if it's a school event, we might have a pop-up there. So this is especially true in our community plans and our general plan outreach that we're currently undertaking. And we've had, we always will have bilingual staff on board at those events. So we've also had a previous staff member who spoke Tagalog, since we have a large Pacific Islander population as well. And she was actually a graphic design, major in school. So she actually helped initially with some of the ADU drawings that we did. And the purpose of that is to illustrate easily what types of ADUs you could do at the home.
Also, the face-to-face customers at the front counter, like Adam mentioned, it's like about 79-80% are Spanish speaking. So they'll come to us and they'll approach us and they'll ask you, do you know the language? Or they'll speak Spanish right away, trying to know that you speak Spanish. So we've seen that a lot when they come out the front. And you see sometimes I had a few that our conversation will begin in English. And once we go through the technical information, they'll be like, I'm lost. They're like, do you know Spanish? I'm like, yes. Okay, let's continue then under language.
That's great. All right, so we're going to do some rapid fire questions for Raul and Adam. You all sent me a list of some common questions that you receive from the community about ADUs. And I'm going to throw these questions at you, and we're going to go for it. All right, so the first one is, what is the difference between an ADU and a JADU? I have never even heard of a JADU. Raul?
So basically, an ADU stands for an accessory dwelling unit, and it's a second structure on the property that can be used as a separate home. It contains bedrooms, bathrooms, and a kitchen. When it comes to a junior ADU, that basically is built within the actual existing envelope of the home. So basically, you could convert the existing garage or a bedroom into a junior ADU. There's some limitations to the junior ADU. And again, planning has those limitations. And I think Adam could assist you with more information on the limitations on the junior ADU.
All right, Adam, what are some limitations on a junior ADU?
Sure. So the junior ADUs provide a great option for additional, housing options for particularly family members or, grown children or grandparents who might want to live independently but still have that shared, resources with the household. So JADUs are actually required to be 500 square feet or less. They have to be, as Raul said, in either a portion of the house, such as like a master bedroom conversion to a studio, or the attached garage. And they're also required to have a small kitchen. It's called an efficiency kitchen, but they can do a larger kitchen, and they are not required to have a bathroom. So you could actually share the restroom with the rest of the house, but you could cook your meals and your breakfast and in an independent living facility. And so this provides an option. Let's say if you wanted to have rental income from a detached ADU in your backyard, you have a large backyard, and then you want a mom to come move in into your household. So you could build a JADU in the attached garage that would provide independent living space, but also shared resources in that same larger household area.
So can I convert my garage that sits on a property line to an ADU?
Yes.
Who wants to take that one? Okay.
I'll take that one. Yes, if it's a legal structure, you could convert it to a ADU, but it needs to meet the building code requirements. So that comes. Sometimes they come in and they're like, "But it's already permitted. Why do I have to comply with those requirements?" And the reason why, because you're going from a non-habitable space to a habitable space, and you're changing the use of the actual place.
That makes sense to me. Does an ADU require separate utilities?
No, but for example, let's say you have an existing gas meter and you will like to add additional demand to it. So you have to do an analysis making sure that it suffices for both the existing dwelling unit and as well as the ADU. When it comes to the water meter, again, if they need to do any upgrades and the demand, they have to do that. When it comes to your main service panel, they could share the main service panel. I'm sorry, with the ADU, they are required to have their own 100 amp main service panel at this point, and that's going to
Okay.
change in future.
Okay. All right. So the laws are changing. Okay.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
The energy code, it seems that for this will be only for new detached ADUs for new construction. The Energy Commission indicated that in the new code for January 1st, 2023, the minimum size for a main service panel has to be 225 amps. The reason why, because we're going now electric ready. So, for example, you need to have battery ready. You need to have a battery ready. You need to have your furnace ready for electrical. Your water heater, heat pump ready for electrical.
All right. So I have one more question from this list of questions that you get from the community. I know you get a lot of questions about zoning laws, both locally and state. Can you talk a little bit about what those types of questions are and how you manage laws at the local level and the state level?
Yeah, so the city receives a plethora of inquiries regarding ADUs. So we do have a large diversity of different lot sizes. Some of our lots are probably up to, roughly 25,000 square feet in the east side of Salinas for a single family lot. This area was a county island that was incorporated in 1963. We also have very small lot spaces where people would need to know what the dimensions are for an ADU that might be able to fit in their yard. So we have to provide that information. For instance, a single family residential zone, the ADU would be required to be 6 feet away from the main house and 10 feet in a medium density residential zone. So, this varies. Some lots have 2 homes on it, and we want to make sure that the previous home is actually permitted, so you still can build an ADU on a house that already has 2 homes if it's a kind of an older lot that was permitted at the time. And then, for instance, in larger lots, that, like I was mentioning, the 30,000 square feet lots that we have in East Salinas, people may want to build more than 1 home. They might want to build 2 or 3 ADUs. So we have to, tell them that this really isn't a possibility through the ADU law. There may have been situations in the past zoning codes that we did allow for more houses on those types of lots, but in our current zoning code in the low density zone, only 1 house would be allowed. And we actually do refer them now to Senate Bill 9, which is a new law that allows for subdivision of larger lots in California in the low density residential zones. So that's something that we're still learning about, and we haven't received an application to date on Senate Bill 9, but that is something that we do refer them to if it's a situation like that. So again, we do receive a variety of different situations. And in our more historic district in South Salinas, we do receive a lot of inquiries about detached garage conversions and low setback lines that are, and these houses tend to have more unique architecture. So we do have to mandate that the ADU looks, consistent with the existing architecture. That way we preserve that history and culture in Salinas.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to take a quick intermission. ELGL is currently looking for member and listener input on its new strategic plan. This is your chance to shape the future of ELGL. Head over to elgl.org/strategic plan. That's elgl.org/strategic eldgl.org/strategic-plan to get involved. Share your thoughts and make a difference. And save the date. ELGL 2022 is coming in October of 2022. This year, we're gathering in Phoenix, Arizona on October 13th and 14th. Early bird tickets go on sale soon, but more importantly, plan on being at the most engaging local government leader conference of the year. Don't forget to check out our diversity dashboard. That is diversitydashboard.org. We've just posted the newest gender data for chief appointed officials in every local government in the U.S. with a population of 1,000 people or more. It's a huge data set, and it really tells the story about the demographics of local leaders. We have a long way to go before we reach gender parity, and this data will help reinforce why diversity, equity, and inclusion work is so important in local government.
Hey there, this is Kirsten, and I wanted to share some information with you about how your local government can transform payments for your community as well as your staff. City-based technology helps people find, apply, and pay for public services. Cities and counties like San Francisco, Denver, Austin, Chicago, and New York work with City-based for a payment experience people love, backed by industry-leading security. City-based integrates payment functionality, business processes, and communications into a central cloud-based platform that consumers can access through the web, mobile, kiosk, and point of sale. If you'd like to learn more, you can head to go.thecitybase.com/govlove. That's go.thecitybase.com/govlove and learn more about the platform that more than 100 government agencies, utilities, cities, and counties are using to provide hassle-free payments and digital services. Head over to go.thecitybase.com/govlove.
North Carolina City and County Communicators, or NC3C for short, is heading to the Emerald City, Greenville, North Carolina, for the 2022 annual conference. The annual conference gives municipal and county communicators the opportunity to learn from industry professionals about topics that will help your everyday work life. Network with peers and gain support and ideas to assist you with your programs, and return to home base with tangible ideas that will jumpstart creativity. We'll be handing out the Excellence in Communications Awards, another chance to steal ideas and make them fit in your community. Annual membership is $50, and members who register before the early bird deadline of April 13th can attend April 27th through the 29th for $250. Memberships are also available for communicators within organizations like school districts, libraries, utilities, and public authorities. We hope to see you in Greenville for the 2022 annual conference. Visit nc3c.com for more information.
All right, back to our conversation about ADUs. So similarly to the public engagement that you did engagement with technical professionals working on building ADUs. I'm curious who attended this workshop and what some of your biggest takeaways were.
So I attended this workshop, and we had our inspector as well as our planner, Bobby Latino. And the people that attended this workshop were mainly the technical people. They were architects and engineers and also realtors. That was one of the ones that they had questions like, basically the takeaway on the actual workshop was coming in. We presented the technical information for constructing an ADU, and then they had questions like, for example, can they do a second story? How close could it be from an ADU to the existing dwelling unit? It was more in the technical area, so they could prepare their plans and get them ready for submittal, and again have less revisions as they submit their plans. So to me, it was very important to see how they were asking questions and preparing their plans for a submittal. So when we get them, we saw the plans like, they actually paid attention to those comments that we provided to them at the actual workshop, and we saw them actually on the plan. So that was very great.
So you are seeing the quality of the plans that are submitted improving based on the technical workshop.
Yes.
That's great.
And I also did want to mention at the workshops, since the ADU laws are fairly convoluted and it does take time for, it did take time for our office to learn about the ins and outs of the ADU law and how it applies to various situations. We did notice in the workshop that there was a lot of kind of sound bites about what the law meant, and that some of the information may have been taken a little bit out of context, kind of misleading some people just because it's like a game of telephone when you hear about, oh, you could do this with a new ADU. And so just clarifying that and really answering people's questions kind of helped us learn more about the process and helped us learn how to better communicate about ADU law to customers at the counter, people who call in, and even design professionals.
That's great. Holly, what was some of the feedback that you received from the community based on the workshops?
Yeah, so in the process of advertising the workshops and starting to do outreach, we had a really big interest in the workshops themselves. I was in the housing division with the City of Salinas, so we would get a lot of calls surrounding it. I know Raul and his division also received interest when the workshop was mentioned to people. So it was a lot of curiosity by the community, because I think people are really eager to learn this information. And also a lot of people who decided to attend the event. Our first workshop, we had 65 in-person attendees, and afterwards people expressed a lot of gratitude towards this information and having the city put this on. So I think it was a really positive experience between the city and community members of just the city laying out this educational materials that the public, sometimes it can be really hard and not accessible to get to, but being able to see city staff face to face, get that information, and as Adam has expressed, ask those clarifying questions, I think created a lot of positive reception, and people seemed very grateful and also were eager to learn more, future workshops we were having or future educational opportunities that the city might host. So it just seemed to be a really great experience, because I know a lot of members of the public can turn out to city events when they're upset. So it was really great to be in a situation where people were turning out because they were excited and curious.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. You're so right that a lot of people typically only engage with local government when they're upset.
Also, having those workshops on YouTube helps a lot when we're at the front counter face to face, as well as those brochures, because they'll come to us and they come with all these questions, and we could always refer them to the actual YouTube videos as well as the brochures that we have, and then we could explain if there's additional information that you want to know about ADUs. This is a location where you can find them. So we even have them. I know our building specialist, whenever she sends emails with the checklist for the ADUs, she always have the link to the actual workshops that we have on YouTube.
That's great that you're able to continue to use those workshops for future educational purposes. That's awesome. Holly, can you talk a little bit about what the process was like applying for the AARP Community Challenge Grant? I think we probably have some listeners that are interested in applying, and so maybe you can just talk about your experience.
Yeah, I would love to. So for me, as a VISTA with the City of Salinas, this was the first grant application I'd ever filled out. And from my experience, I found it really easy, straightforward application process, straightforward software that AARP uses. So I found it very accessible grant to apply to. The questions for the grant were very straightforward, outlining what your project will be like, why your community needs this project, and it had really kind of shorter word limits. So it's all about being concise, having that idea. So it was a lot of kind of back and forth, since as a volunteer with the city, making sure city staff were on board with this project and that aligned with things that would be useful to the city. So a lot of it was brainstorming, but then on my end, writing out the materials to submit the application. So I just think a lot of it is having that idea, talking with your organization, deciding on what sort of project kind of needs funding within your organization, and deciding where AARP's grant could potentially fit in for that. But yeah, overall, I feel like it was a very, straightforward, concise application.
Well, congratulations on getting awarded the first grant you ever applied to. That's a big deal. And I know that this was a super competitive one. So kudos to you and your team. That's a great accomplishment.
Thank you.
All right. So my next question is for all of you. I'm curious what lessons you took away from the ADU educational campaign that could help other jurisdictions try to do outreach around ADUs. And we can start with Raul on this one.
I'll say on this one, it'll be the communication we'd had with the actual residents of the city. I think this workshop provided information that before, when they came into the front, they were sometimes when you're at the front counter, and I see that it might be not just our city but other cities, you feel intimidated when you're at the front counter. And having these workshops, it feels them that they're part of the home, and it feels them that they're part of the city. And you could see the interactions that they have with us. So to me, having those workshops makes a big difference, because I do remember on the first workshop that we had, even after the workshop, when it was done, people were approaching us, asking questions, bringing like sketches to us, saying, this is what I'm planning to do. Can I do it? So that was a good turnaround.
That's great. Holly, what about you?
Yeah, I think something that I learned through this process is I came in to the City of Salinas knowing what an ADU was, but not knowing really any of the laws around it, the nuances of ADUs. So I feel like it was really helpful to realize most people in at least the Salinas community didn't really know where ADUs were. And the big lesson is kind of meeting your community where they're at knowledge-wise around these topics. So luckily, since I kind of had that beginner's mindset while I was making the brochures and presentations, I was able to ask city staff members those like basic questions because I had no idea a lot of these laws and nuances. And I think knowing where your community's knowledge level is at and making sure any materials you make is really at that level, which for us was a very intro, here's the baseline of what our ADUs are and the basic laws, that we can hopefully build on that now that the community has kind of that intro resources, now making more resources that can expand maybe into more the niche parts of ADUs. But I think just knowing wherever your community knowledge base is and really targeting the materials you make to that level.
Great. Adam, last but not least, what lessons did you learn?
Yeah, so, just going through this process of, learning how the ADU law applies to various situations and how we convey that to our city residents and other stakeholders. I think it's really important to kind of simplify the law in a way that it's you're just saying that, these are kind of like your options that you have, whether it's a garage conversion, a detached ADU, or an attached ADU. I would say the hardest one to sell is definitely an attached ADU, because people kind of envision a detached ADU rather than having something, shared walls is kind of like a thing that's weird for single family home residents. But garage conversions are surprisingly popular, and a lot of people who aren't able to do a detached ADU, prefer the garage conversion route. That way they have their backyard that they could still recreate in. So just really conveying those options in a kind of simplified manner really kind of helps people understand that it's not that scary of a process, and that it's better to just convey this information from the forefront, rather, because these ADUs will be built. The law is here, and the housing is going to become more dense as new laws are passed and more transit is built in the future. Salinas is going to be getting a train to San Jose twice daily in the evening and morning.
Wow.
pretty
That's cool.
soon here. So just given the fact that California will get more dense, people do want to live here. You can't really, avoid the fact that you're going to be building ADUs. So it's really great to convey that information. And definitely when we update our general plan, we have to think about issues related to parking, transit, affordable housing, because just because we build ADUs doesn't mean the housing is going to be affordable. So these are definitely things that we have to consider. The ADU law is here today, and people are building them, and that's going to provide housing solutions for Salinas. But we also have to think about parking issues. We have to think about additional recreation opportunities, and we also have to consider the fact that we are only an hour from Silicon Valley, and we do have to provide additional housing options that are mandated to be affordable for city residents, just as we do have a large population of farm workers, and if people are building a brand new ADU, they're going to charge market rate or above market rate, just because of the fact that they invest a lot of money into the ADU. So those are just some things that we have to consider, but it is important to boost the construction of ADUs for the short term, and I think that's why it's great that we have these opportunities to educate residents about options and do it in a way that they can understand and kind of follow through on.
That's great. So Adam touched a little bit on this, but I want to hear what the next step for the City of Salinas ADU program is. Raul, do you want to start with this one?
So the city is working on providing funding for low-income families. So what it means, there's going to be more opportunities. At this point, they're working on it. So until we get a final, there'll be additional information provided to our residents.
That's great. That's really great to hear. Adam, what about you from your perspective? What are the next steps?
I think the next steps for us would be, learning more about Senate Bill 9. From what I've heard, it's not really going to be applicable to as many properties as the ADU law. But we do have to consider that. And also what we're doing related to ADUs, which I think is more relevant to this conversation, would be that we are contracting with a zoning firm to draft a new ADU ordinance for the city that complies with the state ordinance, and we will be looking into kind of ways to change it as applicable. For instance, we're not sure if we're going to be allowing second story ADUs, so that's something that might negatively affect one-story neighborhoods. So that's just something that we are considering. And do you want to talk about the pre-approved plans, or?
Well, I was with the city. I was project manager for ADU pre-approved plans, which ADU pre-approved plans are essentially plan sets that are already conform to your jurisdiction's building code. So the city's already reviewed them. The main thing that has to be reviewed by staff is the site plan. So it really expedites the permitting process and reduces the design professional costs on the end of any property owners who are interested in building an ADU. So the City of Salinas had already selected an architecture firm who has been creating these pre-approved plans, and they should be coming out sometime within 2022. And since I left in January, I'm not quite sure where exactly that's at, but sometime in 2022. I don't know if Adam, Raul, if you guys have an update on it, but.
We're getting close to approval of the plans. So once the plans are approved, they're going to be ready. And what I've been hearing from helping the building specialists at the front counter, some of you will come at the front and they ask, are the pre-approved plans ready? Because it seems that they like the idea, as Holly mentioned, that the only thing that they have to create will be the site plan, and that will be reviewed by our departments. Everything else, basically, it's already done. So if a project takes for example, 2 to 3 months to get approved, this will reduce that amount of time.
Yeah, and the city is also waiving development impact and traffic impact fees for ADUs. So, for instance, for a garage conversion, you're looking at $4,000 in building permit fees, whereas if you built a new single-family dwelling on a lot, development and traffic impact fees would apply, which would run you about $27,000.
Wow.
So, and a quick addition to what Holly and Raul said. So, Holly was crucial in communicate in being the project manager for the pre-approved plans and working with the architects who were on board with that. And so they hopefully should be coming soon due to all of Holly's hard work. And we will have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and 2 1-bedroom, 1-bath options.
That's
and
great.
These are going to be in 4 different architectural styles that do mesh best with the city's existing housing stock.
That's amazing. Very cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about the process of applying for the grant? Anything about the grant or moving forward that you want to share?
Another thing that was helpful while writing the grant was really tapping into the current plans that the City of Salinas already had in place that addressed the need for housing within the City of Salinas and also addressed the need for ADUs specifically as a solution in neighborhoods that are primarily single family homes. So really tapping in and leaning on any planning projects that your jurisdiction has already done that relates to a project you might be applying for, to just show whatever you're trying to do with this AARP Community Challenge grant is just a continuation of projects and planning documents you already have, I think can be really helpful and also lets you fulfill those ideas that your municipality already has.
Awesome. That's really good to share with the audience. All right. Well, I have one last question for you all. You guys can answer it collectively or individually, whatever your preference is. If you could be the GovLove DJ for this episode, what would you pick as our exit music?
I think the exit song I would pick is "We Built This City" by Starship. Because we're trying to build up the city, densify it, and I also love 80s music. So
perfect.
I agree.
I never heard the song, but I agree.
Well, you're going to hear it when you listen to the episode. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming to taking the time to come and talk to me today. I know I learned a lot about ADUs. I am one of those people that knew what an ADU was, but didn't know all the legalities behind it. So this has been very educational for me. All right. Well, GovLove is produced by a rotating cast of ELGL volunteers. And thanks to our friends at AARP Livable Communities. Don't forget to head over to aarp.org/livable-communities to learn more about creating great places for people of all ages. ELGL is the Engaging Local Government Leaders Network. You can reach us at elgl.org/GovLove or on Twitter at @GovLovePodcast. Thanks for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.